So there's a lot of discussion about protein being dangerous, myths about cancer, osteoporosis, kidneys, gout. Would you address that a little bit? Talk about,
Oh,
some of the
sure.
evidence around
Absolutely.
that?
All right. So historically, we've felt that protein was really hard on your kidneys. And it's true that protein is, you have to use your kidneys more when you eat protein. It's more work for your kidneys, but that's actually good for your kidneys. In high protein diets, the kidneys actually get larger and stronger and better. And so protein's actually uh, working the kidneys, but in a good way. It would be like if you did a lot of running, your legs would get stronger and literally better. That's what protein is like for your kidneys. So protein does not harm your kidneys at all. There are zero cases in the medical literature of protein ever harming anyone's kidneys. In the entire history of medical literature, we have no case reports of bodybuilders, for example, some of whom are eating just incredibly stupendous amounts of protein. No one's had a kidney injury or kidney problems from excessive protein. So it's totally mythical that protein harms your kidneys. Even in people with kidney dysfunction, we've historically always recommended protein restriction for these people, but there's almost no evidence to support that. The vast majority of people who have kidney failure to some degree do not benefit from protein restriction. In fact, meta-analysis showed that about 93% of people with chronic kidney disease do not benefit at all from protein restriction. And so it's extremely rare. Only men with primary glomerular disease have been ever shown to benefit from protein restriction at all. And even then, the benefit was microscopic. So this is extremely mythical. Like the fact that your average person who has kidney dysfunction due to high blood pressure or diabetes, they're probably going to actually benefit from a higher protein percentage in their diet. So the thought that they should restrict protein is really kind of mythical. Gout is sort of the same story. So historically, we've told people, oh, if you have gout or high uric acid, you don't want to eat very much protein. That's really not true. And in fact, in a study where they took men with high uric acid levels and gout and put them on an Atkins diet where they literally increased their protein intake, everyone's uric acid levels went down and everyone's gout got better. And so the reality is that metabolic syndrome and being over fat is what causes hyperuricemia. Insulin, if you're hyperinsulinemic because you're over fat, insulin prevents the kidneys from excreting uric acid properly. So anyone who's over fat is going to have high uric acid and be at risk for gout. So what you really want to do is just get thinner. And the best way to do that is actually a higher protein percent diet because you get so much more satiety per calorie. So the same thing is true of your cancer risk. So being over fat, being on the insulin resistance spectrum dramatically increases your risk for cancer. Type 2 diabetics have more than doubled their risk for all these cancers: breast, colon, endometrial, prostate cancer. All of these cancers are driven by hyperinsulinemia, and just being over fat will give you high insulin levels all the time. And that's way more cancerogenic than eating protein. Protein will spike your insulin transiently, but overall it just makes you thinner. So your basal insulin is actually way, way lower. Your total insulin exposure is much lower if you eat more protein because you have higher satiety per calorie, and then you're thinner, and then your basal insulin is lower. So protein has never been proven to increase your risk for cancer or your risk for kidney problems. And it's not dangerous if you have kidney issues to begin with. And we've told people for a number of years that protein's bad for your bones, that protein's acidic and it will leach calcium out of your bones and melt your bones. That's actually the exact opposite of the truth. And in fact, the more protein you eat, the better your bone density is going to be. And that is because your bone is 50% protein and 50% minerals. So there's this protein matrix that the minerals are placed in that make up your bone. And in fact, even if you have high bone mineralization, your bone's going to be more brittle and less flexible if you're on a low protein diet. And you're actually more likely to break something, even if your bone density looks good from a mineral standpoint. So the more protein you eat, the better it is for your bones. Literally, the better it is for your kidneys. The thinner you're going to be and the lower your overall insulin exposure is going to be. And there's pretty much no downsides to eating protein at all. Anything we've ever said historically about protein being bad is basically mythical and fraudulently wrong and based on no actual evidence.
It's hard to get that message out there, but I think it is starting to expand a little bit more, and people are getting more aware of it. Certainly talks like these help get the message out to the public, I think.